Jim Garrison. This is Wednesday, December 14th, 1966. I'm getting ready to have an interview with Jack Martin about David Ferrie.
Do you know who witnessed that? Do you know who my witness was? David David W. Ferrie sat there and heard every bit of it. I couldn't use him because he was currently under
I
trial.
remember. What was it that Dome was shaking down?
Money for a grand. And Dave Ferrie and another cat were sitting there that night and paid him.
What was he telling me, the bondsman? I remember the statement. Something about...
we killed ourselves for you, and this and that and the other thing, blah, blah, blah. We're giving you our life. We're fighting for our life. Remember? Yeah. And he was broken than hell.
$1,000?
A grand. And he was back and forth between Sylvia Gold Barn and, in fact, I met Dawn just the other day, about a month ago. Bill Lee Fritz's joint down on Camp Street, where all the 15 guys hang out. And he admitted it. He copped out.
Unbelievable. Well, listen, I think you and I are the same thing, and I kind of pictured you a little because he was so blasé about it. I felt that this fellow, Ferrie, is a very interesting person, and they're looking into, and from what Pershing tells me, you seem to have that attitude too. And
I told Pershing
I think Pershing missing a bet when he treats so casually.
Well, I told Pershing this. I have to qualify what statements I make. This man, I've got no love for him, so any statement I make will be in presence.
Well, you might be able to give us some good leads, and that's what I'm very interested in.
Well, that's what I came with this morning.
Unusual circumstance, and I have the impression that we got a lead on him before, you see, and sent the Bureau to him right after the president was killed, and the FBI by then had decided it was Oswald, and their ears were closed, you know.
Well, so can I tell you who gave you that lead?
I know where originally came from.
Herman Coleman. Now, Herman Coleman was the young reporter that wrote the story on Ferrie when he was first hit out.
Right, and so he knows something about it. But what happened, apparently, is the Bureau never followed it up, really, or else they discounted it.
That's right.
Well,
They figured I was a nut.
They must have figured something on because you cannot discount that easily. The man,
Well, you this nigger, this splendid nigger, this young buck nigger that's working for Ferrie now at the airport as a mechanic or something.
I'm interested in Ferrie and Brownlee. And they're connected with all.
Let me fool you on something now. This nigger has been driving, young nigger has been driving Dave Ferrie around for a long time. He's packed a rod for Ferrie. He's packing a 38 revolver about an 8 All the time I
He carries a revolver?
That's right. This nigger's been packing a revolver.
He's a bad boy.
No, he was picked up. All the time he's with Dave, he carries a gun. Now, he was picked up one time on Orange Street, I believe.
In other words, Ferrie has a bodyguard?
Yeah, he was a real estate, yeah.
I mean, this fellow's still a bodyguard, huh?
Evidently. Now, this nigger claims to be a mechanic for Ferrie. Now, let me clue you on this guy.
What's his name?
I've forgotten.
Okay.
I think it was Philip or something like that. I've forgotten. It was either his first or last name was Philip. I've forgotten. But now, this nigger...
You don't want to make a few notes.
No, go ahead. Make a tape recording.
Go ahead. No, I don't. I just want to...
This nigger, let me tell you, he's a clean-cut looking nigger. He's sharp. And maybe a bit illiterate, but he's sharp. This guy was packing a rod for Ferrie. He was driving him around quite often, always in the car with Ferrie. This nigga was in Texas with Ferrie, when Ferrie was in Texas just before and probably during the assassination.
All right, let me get that. He was in Texas?
That's right, so I understand, because he went everywhere with Ferrie. He flew with Ferrie, and that's Stinson Boyd.
Well, now, we know that this fellow Brownlee went, but he's not the Negro.
Well, now, this
We have heard from him.
Anywhere that Ferrie and Brownlee went, this nigger was there too. Now,
There may have been three of them then.
that's right.
How do you know this Negro was there?
I just thought he went everywhere with Ferrie. Now, this nigger could have been the same nigger that they saw in the book depository.
In the window.
That's right. Now, I've often thought of that.
What does he look, what's his hair like?
He's a dark Negro. His hair used to be combed all the time, cut short.
It's short?
Yeah. Now, look. Before Ferrie got his case killed over here, before Khrushchev, this kid was had him charged with a crime of this nature, came back out of the service. just before he got
The
back.
crime against nature case was in Jefferson.
That's right. And intimidating the state's witnesses was in Orleans.
Right, and he must have worked something out because all of the victims, I remember that case, because all of the victims
Khrushchev
came in.
withdrew his case.
That is right.
He came back out of the service at Murray and contacted Ferrie and he says, no, I'm not a minor anymore. I want to get this off your back.
Right, so the New Orleans case.
Ferrie paid him off.
No, the peace.
Ferrie paid him off.
Now what happened in Jefferson, I don't know. That was a real case.
Anyway, sir, what happened was, just before then, this Negro got in jail here in New Orleans on a pickup on loitering or vagrancy or something. They went before Babylon. And Ferrie came to my house. He was arrested on Orleans Avenue. And he'd been sitting in jail 3 days before they allowed him to use the phone. And Ferrie got a hold of me and came over to my house and got a hold of me. And I
He was arrested just before Ferrie's New Orleans case was dropped.
Yeah.
That was in 1968.
The Jefferson case, just before the Jefferson. About the time Khrushchev came back in town, that's the guy that had charged.
Just before the Jefferson
Yeah,
case was dropped. That'd be about January 63.
Somewhere around in there. Anyway, this nigger turned around and was in jail, and Ferrie came to my house, and I talked to Judge Babylon, and told Judge Babylon that I knew the nigger, that he was an employee of Dr. Ferrie who owned an airplane at New Orleans Airport, and he was an airplane mechanic. In fact, Judge Babylon released him as a favor to him. Now, I'll tell you,
So I probably have a month of it.
they may have, yes, sir. Now, unfortunately, Jim, I figured Dave Ferrie was dead and buried or something, you know? Unfortunately, here about the time that he got in trouble here locally, and it was just before the assassination of Kennedy, there was a guy working in the case of Dave Ferrie. He's trying to pull Dave Ferrie's pilot's license because of these activities.
Oh, you mean working for Eastern Airlines?
No, this guy is better than that.
Oh, really?
This guy's trying to pull his pilot's license, yes, sir. This man is in Washington. Now, when I was back in Washington before I had a heart attack, I visited this man up there and we had lunch together. He and a couple of FBI buddies of his. This man is a former Bureau man. He's a good friend, Aaron Cohen. He knew Cohen in the Bureau, and now he's with he's either the chief or the assistant chief of the Office of Compliance and Security of the FAA.
What's his name?
Richard E. Dick Roby.
Washington, D.C.
Richard E. Roby. R-O-E-D-Y. No, R-O-B-E-Y, I beg your pardon. These damn bifocals, they get on a certain line and
What's his title?
he's an investigator, Office of Compliance and Security. Federal Aviation Authority. It flies all over the country.
Okay.
Now, his telephone number is ST 3-2100.
100. Okay.
Extension 4524. Now, he's got a residence phone in Silver Springs, Maryland. That's right outside.
Yeah, I know where it is.
All right. And he's got a residence phone.
All right.
Now, because of the fact that Dick Roby had a personal vendetta for some reason against Dave Ferrie, I sent all my files to Dick Roby. I even had notes in there where Dave Ferrie had sat down and showed my wife various formulas in calculus and high mathematics and how to construct by using lithium hydride or lithium and boron hydride, and how to construct an atomic bomb using magnetic fields. Yeah.
The war was made public? I mean, the last few years been made public.
No, it's not you bombard through magnetic fields. It's never been made public.
Well, the general makeup of the atomic bomb has, but you mean something
Well, this is something that Ferrie cooked up, and it might even work. It's highly plausible, because I had some guys look at it. No. I had these all these
formula for how do you describe it specifically?
by using lithium, L-I-T-H-U-M.
Yeah.
Lithium
How
hydride.
do you know that?
And in other words, you don't have to use like the hard water bits, the heavy water bit. You don't have to use the heavy water bit when you bombard your magnetic fields. And I looked at this in the jail because even drew the descriptions of the mechanical setup on this thing. I kept these notes. Now I have these attached to my other papers and I sent them to Dick Rowley to help him with this case because I figured my connection with Dave Ferrie was through. You understand? And he's probably got him in the Dave Ferrie file. Then when Dave was arrested here in New Orleans, I also sent him to this paper article stuff in.
Well, let me ask you this. If I write it, he may send them to me.
Yes.
What's your home address? And I'll put a copy of it to you.
1836 and a half Esplanade.
And then I'll put a copy of it to you so he can check with you for permission.
Yes.
And that way I'll
That's
make
all right.
it.
You type a little statement and I'll put a note in there or anything and I'll say, that complete release system. This is Jim Garrison with Michael.
And what's your phone number?
943-6949.
Okay.
That's another list.
Tell me more about this Ferrie. I think that we have something here. If we keep it quiet, we're looking into it.
Well, Ferrie had typed me an outline on the case. What he claimed happened. And the discrepancies between the police department and his story and what these people had done to him. Every detail, allegedly, his side of the story was in this brief. Attached to the brief was an appendix, an index, naming the times, the places, just like you run footnotes on a technical record. See, you put them in the back of the book. This is a separate paper that gave the names, addresses, and phone numbers.
Is that organized?
Yeah, he's that organized. He does everything. He hits a blackboard. He does it by air, speech, and logic. This man's no fool. And you're going to see why in it.
Seems to be a very unusual person.
No, it's unusual. Do you see those books you got back there? He's got about a half a shelf full of Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. He reads all of them. That guy can crack the
Where did he lose his hair?
Whatever. He can crack, I'll tell you that. He can crack the octal bust out of the saddles. That's the letters of the Pope. You like this? And on this day of so-and-so, you think he's reading English, you look over his shoulder, he's reading cold turkey Latin.
It's remarkable.
No.
I have such proficiency as a pilot as well.
No. Let me clue you where he learned all that. I have heard the story that Ferrie was a priest at one time. And he left the church in grace. If he did that, even if he left the church in grace, he can still take communion. He can become a layman, but he can't ever marry.
That's interesting.
Now, there's a lot of guys walking loose that have left the church in Greece, but they can't marry. Now, there were some provisions made by some European bishops where priests left the church in Greece and were able to marry.
A special situation.
That's right.
You think he might have been a legitimate priest?
Wait a minute, he was Roman Catholic, I'm going to tell you. Now, Ferrie's father was a lawyer with the police department in Cincinnati, Ohio. You know about this?
No, I just know he's from Cincinnati.
All right.
Well,
Ferrie's mother and I were very good friends, and she used to sit and shake her head all the time. And she was a devout Catholic. She used to burn a candle 24 hours a day to the Holy Virgin in the house. Now, Ferrie had a bunch of missionary priest stuff up there in his house, vestments and everything. The only place you get those, this is strictly issue stuff. I've seen this stuff before. I know. I've been around seminaries. In fact, when I travel out of town, you know where I usually stay? In a rectories. I know some few people in the church myself.
That's very interesting. That might account for his unusual background.
Let me clue you on something. Ferrie got a legitimate bachelor's degree and then went to the seminary. He was a priest in the Precious Blood Bonds. That's the order of the Precious Blood, you know?
It's a legitimate Catholic organization.
That's right. Now, he left in grace. Now, I was talking to his mother. Now, Dick Roby had inquisited me on this. And I said I didn't know. So one day I called Ferrie. This is when he was leaving on Athenia Drive in Memphis. I called Dave on this, on something, and his mom answered the phone. It wasn't the phone. I got talking, and she was mad. She says, I don't know what I'm going to do with this boy. She said, I'd rather be dead. I'd rather not see this. Jack, I read with. She's a lovely old person. She was scared to death of him.
Why was he such a disappointment? Why was he scared?
Look, I have seen Ferrie take that pistol and say, kill them all, they come and get me out of my barn. He does it dirty. Talk to my wife about this. She'll tell you. We went over there one Christmas, and he had he was dancing around with an old 3 rifle, just like the one that killed Oswald. He had about 5 or 6 of them up there. In fact, well, that's where Lee Harvey Oswald learned how to order those damn things from Ferrie. All right. So
What was he talking about killing?
his bondsmen, if he threw off his bonds, Crooks and Jefferson, he said, kill all cops. I mean, insane stuff, and he was sober. I'll tell you who else witnessed this. My wife, and there was a woman, no relation to us, Mrs. Martins, M-A-R-T-I-N-S. Now, if you remember correctly, when Ferrie was arrested...
Mrs. Martins, what about her? You witnessed it?
Yeah.
M-A-R-T-E-N-S?
M-A-R-T-I-N-S.
Martins or Martin?
Martins, M-A-R-T-I-N-S.
All right.
All right. Now, you remember when Ferrie was arrested by your people there on this charge on the Kennedy Bedford investigation? All right, so there was a
March 25th.
There was a Martin's boy in the bunch that they took in.
Oh, that's it.
That's her son. That is his protege. He got that kid a couple of college scholarships. I can never figure out whether Ferrie was fucking the boy's mother or the kid.
Both.
Both. All she was trying to marry this guy. And at that time, she had some stuff that was advantageous for him to marry her. He says, Jack, I can't. He kept on. He couldn't. Not that he wouldn't, but he couldn't. Now, Mrs. Martins lives, at that time, she lived at 606 Nashville.
Was she attractive?
She wasn't a bad-looking woman. She was in her 30s, I think, 30s or so.
Very interesting. Go ahead.
She wasn't what you'd call an ugly woman by any means, but she wasn't winning any fatal beauty contests. She wouldn't project any extreme sex in the morning.
Yeah.
But she was a smart boy's mother. Now, the smart boy's a nice-looking kid. But I had a phone number, but her phone number no longer exists.
That's all right.
But this is the address I have. All right. Anyway, so I got Mrs. Ferrie on the phone.
Would you like some coffee?
If you want some,
I got time. She said I get so many calls on my inside line, I throw the phone to waste.
Well, anyway, sir, at this time, pardon me for being so impolite. I don't think about it. At this time, I got the old lady on the phone, Ferrie's mother. And I said, Mrs. Ferrie, she says, what do you mean? She says, so once you broke no check, you're working hard for this boy. I was trying to prove the guy innocent. I halfway believed it, you know. And so, but I had full Sino work at the sheriff's office. I said, I find this doctor's lying to me. I'm going to tell you something. Sino was one of my boys at the sheriff's office in those days, you know. Like this business school. So I told him to make sure. I said, look, if I can't just pass the line, I'm going to give you a full report on it. I won't take this. If the guy's telling the truth, I wouldn't do it. Because I didn't get that commission from over there. And I wouldn't do anything to hurt the sheriff.
Go ahead, tell me more about him, though.
Well, anyway, this mother tells me, she says, I said, she got to tell me, she said, when he was in the priesthood, he was never like this. I said, do you mean to tell me, Mrs. Ferrie, that he was formerly a priest? She said, yes. I said, what order was he in? A precious blood fraud. I said, jive with what Ruby had said. You understand? So, now this captain, what's his name, at Eastern Airline, that was fighting Ferrie's case with the against the Airline Pilot Association at that time. They got him on suspension. Son was a Jesuit, see? This captain's son was a Jesuit. And I was wondering why Captain Griner, that was his name. I wondered why Captain Griner was so vehemently against Ferrie, see? And Captain Griner had told me that Ferrie was a former clergyman. He'd been defrocked.
Well,
So anyway, let me tell you this now. So I called Ferrie up later that evening, and I called Ferrie and I told him, Dave, I said, I find out where this priest is, because this was hurting me with these cases against the airline. They claimed that he had a dual vocation, he could go back to the priesthood. They could have no airline pilots. They used this to hang their hat on, see? And I said, I found out where this priest stuff came from. It came from your mother. I said, come on over. He came over and I told him. I wouldn't tell him on the phone. Because Ferrie's got a violent temper and I was afraid of what he might do. You might get this cat on the murder charge yet.
How would you get some coffee? How would you like yours, Jack?
A little cream, a little sugar.
You want a little cream, a little sugar, and I'll take none of this cream.
All right. He comes over, it's about 7:30, 8 o'clock Ferrie's man, he turns white. And he goes like this. Killer. He jumps in the car with a nigger and he take off. His mother left that night, so he says for
He said, I'll kill her?
Yeah, that's right. He says, I'll kill her. I'd kill her. I thought this is where it was coming from. People are calling the house and she's talking. He jumped in the car with this nigger and he took off. Next thing I called, there was no answer. I called later, pretty soon he answered the phone. I said, where's your mother? He says, I sent her back to Philadelphia last night. My father. Philadelphia, that's what he said, or Pennsylvania.
Just a second. Hey, you know Jack, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's the one.
Jack's giving us some interesting background on this fellow Ferrie.
Anyway, Mr. Garrison. I said, you mean you sent your mother back this quick to Philadelphia? He says, yeah. 2 weeks later, Ferrie takes off and went back east there to Pennsylvania or someplace back in there, I'll tell you, Pittsburgh, wherever it was. Allegedly, his mother was replaced, but 2 weeks later, he goes back to bury his mother. She quickly died, we'll put it like that. Now, Ferrie is a very brilliant man, and he's capable.
She died before he went back.
Yeah. Or whether she did or not, I don't know. She was sick, that was it. She was sick, and he had to go back, and while he was back there, she died. Now, this guy had bragged openly to me. He said, well, he says, you can always poison by apoptosis. Now, apoptosis is a system of poisoning where you can lay something on the skin, a certain culture, and it will penetrate to the outside tissues of the skin and go inside and kill you. There's a lot of ways to kill a guy. There's a lot of ways to kill a guy without showing an autopsy. Doctors are not infallible, not even the best of toxicologists.
Let's try and get to where it connects with Oswald, that's what I understand.
Well,
I mean, it's good to know, but
yeah.
Oswald, when did you see him on Oswald?
Well, at Bannister's one time, Ferrie used to come at Bannister's. Now, this is after I had met...
no, but you saw him with Oswald several times.
Yeah. I was supposed to see once, twice, maybe. All right. This kid, Oswald, at that time, was just another hard-headed kid running around. He had a lot of them around him. Every time you see Ferrie, he had a whole bunch of these kids with him.
This was in 63?
62, 63, back in there somewhere. I couldn't pinpoint. That's when he was in all his trouble, see? All right.
Every 63.
All right. Now, let me give you the tie-in with Oswald and Ferrie from New York. As you know, when Ferrie was in his jam, one of his defense mechanisms that he came up with was that he was a CAP squadron commander. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
All right. Yet the CAP, he says, the squadron didn't exist. Well, anyway, he had this raft of guns and stuff. Now, when I met, and he was training these kids in commando stuff, so he had a raft of pictures. He'd take these kids out of their cabins, and I understand he still got these pictures. They gave about 10 photographs of these kids in combat uniform and their rifles and stuff. They're out doing cookouts and stuff, see? Whether that's a function of the CAP or not, I don't know. It was David Ferrie's way of handling things.
He's still connected with it some way.
No, wait a minute. He filed a charter. He learned how to do on corporations when he went with Gill. And he filed a charter. I saw him in the mortgage office one day after he was with Gill, and he filed a corporate charter to stay in Louisiana, it says Civil Air Patrol and Space Cadets.
That would be since 63.
Well, around in there, you'll find it up there in the mortgage office in the nonprofit charters. As I saw the charter in Ruffin in Gill's office. And in fact, he used to use Gill's notary seal and sign Gill's name as good as he could.
Well, this isn't really a CAP outfit, it's just...
I don't know, it's his own concoction. See, 83 people in a nonprofit institution that incorporate. Well, anyway, in these pictures, he had this guy, Khrushchev, and everybody else. All his cadets. I'll bet you, if you go up there to Louisiana Avenue, where Ferrie used to live, he's still living there on the second floor apartment.
Still lives.
Huh?
He's still there.
All right. You go up there, you get a hold of a bunch of these old pictures, you're going to find Oswald's picture.
And Oswald was with his group?
That's right. Dave Ferrie introduced me to him in Bannister's office. He says, this is Lee Oswald. He says, he used to be in my CAP squadron when he was a little kid.
I see. In an earlier group then.
That's right, see? And he had pictures of all these cats. You go up there and go through those pictures, you're going to be enlightened.
Now, let's see, and this time in 63, you went to John Bannister's office. Was that his little
I was
office?
sitting in there, no, it was in Lafayette Street.
That was the
531
Balta
Lafayette.
building?
No, 531 Lafayette Street, on the side of the old post office building. They're right back of the Cluso's Cafe.
Oh, Double Master?
Yeah, it's an advertising agency.
What Lafayette?
531. It had a big black door there. Okay.
Right across from Lafayette.
Yeah, that's in that small office, that's all small.
He started off with a
He had his front foyer office, which is bigger than your inner office, and he had two smaller offices off to the side of that, and he had another little alcove in there with a crack in it and a storeroom. He was a pretty good sized little place.
Who else was there besides Oswald?
Oh, Ferrie and a bunch of kids coming.
Oswald and Ferrie.
Well, Ferrie and a bunch of young fellows come in. And Ferrie had one of these officer's fatigue hats on, you know, like they wear in Vietnam, you know. And he had pair of dark glasses and his mohair sticking down. Like, I thought he was one of the Cubans. In fact, the Concha was with him with a front face, see? The Cuban front face.
Oh, you mean like the Castro type of hat?
Yeah,
That's not the door.
That's the good one, yeah.
And you were decapping youngsters, and how old were they?
Oh, they range anywhere from 17 to 21, maybe, something like that.
And where was Oswald?
Well, he was with this bunch because one of the guys, he said, this is Lee Oswald. He's a friend of mine. Well, I was sitting there, and I don't think anybody was in the office. Miss Roberts, she wasn't even working there.
Roughly how many
Bannister was in talking to some people, and these guys came in to see Bannister.
Roughly how many kids were with Ferrie?
I'll say 3 or 4, including a Kacha and this guy, Oswald and Ferrie, and there was a couple of other guys with
The
them.
Tacha, who was that?
Sergio Acacia, S-E-R-G-I-O.
How old was he?
A-C-H-C-A. Well, I'll give you a rough illustration. Sergio Acacia was in with the two Cuban diplomatic corps under the Fulgencio Batista regime. He was a PhD at Columbia University.
Beautiful, just a minute, not so fast. That interests me. What was he with Batista?
He was with the Cuban diplomatic corps. He'd been all over. He was a PhD at Columbia University.
Do you mean to say that the FBI didn't show any interest in things like this? Well, I'm interested.
Well, anyway, now Sergio was with Columbia, graduated at Columbia University, had PG work at Georgetown University.
Did he dress in fatigues?
Oh, no.
He was with them, though.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was some kind of uniform.
Sergio is the type of guy that you're dealing with class.
But he came in with them,
Oh,
nevertheless.
yeah. You see, Ferrie was helping the Cubans in those days, apparently. Yet they didn't trust him.
He was helping these, what you might call, the loyalists.
The Front Day against Castro, the anti-Castro people. They call it the Front Day. It was the Cubano, the Cuban Democratic Revolutionary Front. The Cuban Democratic Revolutionary Front.
Is that it?
That's it. It was first in the ball building. That was the first office, which I got the office form.
Cuban Democratic what?
Revolutionary Front. I got Colonel Ball. I thought the ball didn't get him off.
Just a second. He was in the Baltimore. They were in the Baltimore building at that time?
Right.
Colonel Baltimore was remember that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
And from there, he went down to the Newman building. On the 500 block of campus.
Acacho's out there.
Yeah.
Was Acacho the head of it?
At that time, yeah. Sergio Acacia and Carlos Carrega. He spelled his name. He's still here in the law at this time. He's married to a girl that's related to Fitzgerald. This guy is a pretty man too. Carlos, C-A-R-L-O-S, Carrega. Q-U-I-R-O-G-A.
U-I-R-O-G-A.
Yeah.
Quiroga.
Yeah, he lives at 3134 Derby Place. Derby, D-E-R-B-Y.
Oh, that is the great guy.
Telephone number is 945-5524. Carlos Quiroga's father is with the Pines. He's still in the panel with that. But he's not dead yet. Carlos is feminine against Castro. Carlos hated Ferrie with passion.
Just a second. Let me write this down. Quiroga's father is still the prisoner of Castro?
That's
he hit Ferrie? Ferrie was helping him.
He said, "I think that's the word back." Now, Carlos Ferrie is an electronic engineer. He's an electronic specialist. This guy he's a very brilliant kid. He went in.
Talk to him yet?
I don't think so.
They were bored with this league, weren't they?
I don't know whether they were or not.
Well, I talked to them a little, and they didn't seem interested in anything that didn't support Oswald as being the only man. They almost as if they just wanted to
Who likes to work?
Huh?
Who likes to work?
I guess that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Kerry was mentioning that, and he's not interested too much. He was just got his foot to the guy. He's a nice little guy. I like him. But anyway, that's an opinion.
Now, he gives some interesting things here. Tell us more about this.
Well, anyway, Carlos Quiroga and Concha ran the blood thing as a joint operation. Sergio is
It's still in operation.
yeah, no, Sergio is in New York somewhere. He was working for Ronnie Care advertising agency. Was the last job he had, and he left there and went to New York. Correga and Sergio Concha and Dr. Cordona, and in this kernel, the chief of police, given police under the Jackson Batista was living there, were all good friends.
Who's Dr. Goodhome?
Dr. Cordona, if there were a president of Free Cuba, he might be it. He's in Washington. And they were all over the Madison.
He's the real top man.
Yeah, that's right. One of them.
Was he bastard on that day?
Not that particular day, but I'm just giving you an illustration. All these guys. But what happened was Cordona and some of the top officials, the coordinators for the Cuban government outside Cuba, had appointed Sergio Concha and Carlos Correga as the delegates of the front day here for the New Orleans and Baton Rouge area.
You mentioned one other fellow after Dr. Cordona that was connected with Batista.
Oh, it was this colonel.
Colonel who?
I don't know. He's moved now. But I'm going to give you a guy's name and his unlisted phone number. There's no way to check this guy out.
Cuban colonel.
Yeah, this guy, I talked to him last night. He says, feel free to use my name and I will gladly talk to any police officials.
What does he know?
He doesn't know anything about Ferrie, but he can give you the people that did. This guy's name is Rabel. Louis Rabel, and you spell it like R-E-B-E-L.
L-U-I-S?
L-U-I-S, yeah.
And what's the last name?
Rabel.
R-A-B-E-L?
Yeah.
Where is he?
288-7905.
In New Orleans?
That's it. That's all.
And he will give us information on Ferrie?
Yeah. Well, he says he never knew about it, but he says he will put you next to any Cubans that did. Now, he told me that Carlos Correga would be the only guy that he'd recommend that knew very well.
Well, now, what's Rabel's position? Is he a part of this operation or just new?
Rabel is now he's now taking care of a lot of the Cubans, and he's also monitoring the broadcast over there, and he's on a little bit on shooting people over there doing sabotage right now.
And he wouldn't be negative about giving us...
No, he worked with the police.
All right.
Anything American. I told him, I said, no, this guy was interested in some of the operations at that time and some of the people involved, specifically Dave Ferrie.
Okay.
I said, is an official investigator? I said, no. He said, well, the police are investigating. I'd rather talk to them. Give all the cooperation you want.
What's Oswald's connection with this outfit?
Well, this is a funny thing. The Cubans never trusted Ferrie, and I'll tell you why. Have you ever studied the psychological pattern of radicals in any way? Those people who profess electric philosophy, you notice, we'll use your good friend Leanna Perez as an illustration. Here is a man that's an extreme segregationist. He's an extreme conservative. At the same time, he's an extreme anarcho-communist. Now, you've got your liberals too. But at the same time, most people are liberal about communism and socialism. Never do you find a guy that split trails. This guy, he doesn't form a good pattern. It doesn't match up.
Oh, you mean Ferrie?
Ferrie.
Oh, well, I agree.
Ferrie is an extreme anti-communist, but yet again, I've heard him say this about the riots, the any riots or racial disturbances. They ought to kill all white people, all white country. Now, this guy was pro-Kennedy. He worships them like God.
Then he says they ought to kill what?
He says they ought to kill all the white people and oppose integration. In other words, but he claims to be pro-Kennedy. He worships Kennedy according to him, the way he preaches about Kennedy. He worships him like God. At the same time, he's vehemently anti-communist. Well, that doesn't fit into the pattern. Now, if you remember correctly, even prior to this trouble over Jefferson Parish and Lawrence Parish, Ferrie appeared at the Roosevelt, I believe it was, at one of the large hotels here, and even drew the Darling matter on. Remember this?
No.
Oh,
What
yes,
did he
sir.
fear?
He exposed Darling as being a red. And he did. He talked about, he mentioned some pretty strong, he spoke pretty strongly, strongly about the communists. He spoke openly. Now, you take some of the biggest communist workers, cell members, are anti-communists. Believe what I tell you, some of the most permanent anti-communists are communists themselves.
Yeah. Not sure happy with it. Hey, Bob, how you doing? There's been an awful lot of people here. Can I call you a little later? Think we can be around today? All right.
Say, Mr. Watt, I want to thank you for that. I don't make this care for you. Appreciate it.
But can we go on with this tomorrow? I mean, there's no, but, right, okay, I can tell you tomorrow. Okay. Go ahead, Jack. I'm especially interested in Oswald.
All right.
What he was doing
I
with
was
these
having,
people.
you see, I know Sergio, I don't want to go into how I know him or why, but if you remember this, I'll start here. Of course, this is off the subject, but I want to start at the beginning so you understand my position. I'm not holding anything
Well,
back.
here, let me suggest this. We can get into these other aspects, and I'm interested in later, but I'd rather get to the Oswald part.
I knew Ferrie before this. I was in the St. Charles Hotel shortly after the Havana trouble, and I was sitting in the Ninth and Fourth, a little coffee shop in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a friend of mine, and a coach had come in with a lawyer who's no longer here in this country, this lawyer friend. And I was introduced, the lawyer left, this other friend of mine had left, and I was sitting there talking to Koch, and they started coming in there, and he wanted to see the base gardens before I could lose any trouble or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they were using Bain for props for his airplane. They're using him in his plane.
Let me make that note.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. He says, I don't trust this bastard. Watch out. Don't say too much, you know.
In other words, he would take the plane and go to Cuba and they land somebody on the beach or pick somebody up.
He'd fly from Miami and he'd give him his plane to a Cuban to fly. He wouldn't fly himself. Not doing it. He's very afraid to die.
He is?
That's, he's scared.
In other words, he wouldn't be exposing himself to the
That's right. He's got a Yellowstone. I wouldn't let one out for the first one.
Well, if he's afraid to die, it's unusual. Why is he such a hound for guns? So, possibly,
That's one of the symptoms, I guess. I don't know.
that's right. But in other words, he was working with him and his plane was available. He delivered
That's
to
right.
Miami.
They're using it for it. He says, be careful of this bastard. I don't trust
They
him.
paid him as a mercenary, huh?
That's right. No, we should just be careful of this guy. I don't trust him. Now, Carlos Correa don't trust him at all. He was good.
Doctor did not trust him?
Sergio didn't trust him, so I got you. No. You know how the Spanish are? They were using the Spanish name like Acacia, Sergio Acacia Smith. But Smith was his mother, but he's known as Sergio Acacia Smith. This is how it. You know, they use a crown, they use their other name after their
Oh, I see. They do. Is that what that's happening for?
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, so that's when I first met Ferrie, and then I met Ferrie again at Vance's office a couple of times.
In other words, you actually met Ferrie with this Cuban group.
That's right, yeah. Because shortly afterwards, see, I got Dazel, I got Brady Burns to incorporate that group for Dr. Dazel, for Friends of Free Democratic Cuba, and they put a bunch of them up over there on Camp Street that time, on St. Charles at the time and stuff, you know. And Ferrie would come in over there. Now, on 3 occasions, I know the fact that Ferrie turned around and flew Cubans to Miami. And on one WWL, a jackhammerman at that time. We'll find out the night Havana fell. I was the guy that got Havana on the phone, so Bill Reed could interview. I was trying to get Fidel Castro himself. I got lost.
When Havana fell.
The night Havana fell. Remember the interview?
Since Castro came in?
No, the night Havana fell. When
Castro arrived.
That's right.
They caved in, kind of. It looked like they were going to make that much progress, and suddenly it caved in.
That's right. Now remember the night Havana fell on the 10:30 news, Bill Reed had this deal where he interviewed Harry Allen, the Associated Press in Havana? That was the first release CBS got out of Havana, the night Havana fell. Well, I had been trying since 7:30, and I had a defensive priority on a call through Washington. I got through, I had Raw Castro on the phone, on a command post, you could hear the bullets ricocheting off the buildings, and I mean, they were listening, it was a conference.
Where were you?
I was at my house in Brevard, but we had a conference call set up.
All right.
All right, we had two lines of WWL, one of them the tape was on, and the other Bill Reed was on. Raw can't speak English, hardly speak English, so Bill couldn't talk to him. So we switched off, and we got Harry Allen of the Associated Press, and interviewed Harry Allen of the Associated Press out of one of the radio stations, and the operator just happened and said, well, there's a man here, Harry Allen, an American, a correspondent with AP trying to get on. And Bill says, what do you want? Because we got AP subsidy. And I got the call through for him.
Let me ask you, we can get back to what much
Well, I had some connections with the old group, because we didn't know at that time Castro was a connie.
Yeah,
I believe it.
so it wasn't clear till later. Let me
That's
ask you
right.
about Oswald.
So naturally, I was aware of the contacts when they moved in. Now, so later, over at Barnes's, this cat comes in, and this is Lee Oswald. He's a friend of mine. He's with the CAP.
How was Lee Oswald dressed?
I don't know. They were all dressed in sport clothes. I
The
couldn't.
only one in a kind of uniform was Ferrie, at least with a hat, huh?
Yeah, he had almost a Castro rig, you know. He had a, yeah. Well, anyway.
Do the kids have anything else besides civilians?
I don't remember if you just had kid sport clothes, typical high school kid sport clothes, fatigues maybe. I don't know.
Well, this group is supposed to have something to do.
You know, the manager was in there talking to some client or somebody, and all this gang of hoodlums comes in, and I recognize Dave. After I do a double take, he just takes sunglasses on, you know, and I see a cotton. At first, I figured a bunch of the killers, and I did a double look, and I see these kids are American. I look, and Dave was peculiar looking.
Were these kids supposed to have something to do with the Cuban operation, like a little?
No, they were just Dave's friends. Happened to be ganging with him because he was in trouble. He was charged, you know. The father
was Oswald just another one of his friends, as far as?
Apparently, yeah. Oh, I was casual. I don't know who this cat was. It was just casual, you know. It was less than 2 or 3 minutes, and then they went in and talked to Bannister. What they said, I don't know.
How long were they with Bannister?
Oh, hell, I don't know. I think I went over to Bill's and had a beer after that. I don't think I went back. By the time I came back, they were gone. Either went in Jack Mancuso's cafe or over to Bill's next door. Because I think Joe Newbrook came in about then, and Joe and I were next door. Yeah.
All right.
On another occasion, Oswald had an office in the old Newman building, the old CIO building.
The same year, 63.
Yeah, about the same time.
What would he be doing with an office of all
I
that?
don't know, he had an office. You know old man Arthur?
Yeah, vaguely.
Jimmy Arthur has got an office up there in the Newman building right now. And Jimmy Arthur is going to open the door. Some of Lee Harvey Oswald's pamphlets are still laying in there. Hell, the FBI hadn't even picked them up.
Did he share a space with office?
No, oh, hell no. No, he said Oswald was a commie. But Dave used to go up and see up to this office up there all the time. So,
Was office friendly with Oswald?
yeah, you know.
They thought he was a commie, but he was friendly with him.
Yeah, you know, he talked with him to get information out.
Will he be cooperative with us?
Arthur? Yeah, I guess so. When you go in to see that crazy old man, tell him that he was talking to him and up the rise, and he said that he might be able to help me. He thinks he'll end his God, see. And he knows, of course, that you go to Perez, so he'll leave, you know.
Okay.
old man that he picked up on the dollar he met for putting out the monkey pictures, the handbills?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the old man. The picture of boy for DA, you ever had that?
That's right.
Yeah, that's old man Arthur. He's Jim Garrison, man.
I don't think we picked them up. I think we just looked at them and laughed at them.
Yeah.
Tell us more about Arsenal.
Well,
You saw him once again, didn't you?
yeah, I was trying to remember. It was in the company of Dave.
Ferrie?
I was trying to get it was in the company of Dave, but I'm trying to remember. I can't fit it in actually. I think they
Boy, just a second. Hello? Yeah. Still busy. Well, the lady was saying that story and this and another people. Yeah. Okay.
Vaguely, I was trying to pin it down last night. I was racking my brain to actually pin down conversation and text. You know, what might have been said in an actual train of conversation. I wasn't particularly interested.
But when you read and saw on TV where Oswald killed Kennedy, didn't it come back to you the instances
Well,
where you
the
saw it?
first time I saw that rifle, my wife looked at it on television and said, "My God, that's the same rifles that Dave Ferrie had."
Oh, really? Was that your reaction?
Yeah. And I says, "It is, because Dave Ferrie loaned me one to take home. Somebody had been calling up and making threatening phone calls, and it was a crack pot came by my house one day, and when we lived in North Ferry, pounded on the window. And
Your wife said that too on her reaction?
yeah, and told my wife that they were looking for me, he was going to kill me, and this guy looked like he was good, you know? Scared my wife after death. And Dave loaned me one of those rifles. I had it in my house. I know what it looked like, and I gave it back to him. Well, now, if Oswald, here's what gelled with me. The minute I saw this thing, if Oswald was with Dave Ferrie in the CAP squadron, and Dave Ferrie said he ordered these rifles mail order, and your old man, what's his name, Robert Coleman at that time, they did the news story for the Transcript when they raided Ferrie's house on Athenia Drive, mentioned the fact he had the arsenal. Now, Dave used to brag about...
What did they do with that arsenal when they raided it?
I don't know.
He
He had the rifles after they raided him. They give them back to him.
Justin Ferrie.
Yeah, he's got them up there right now on Louisiana Avenue Parkway, as far as I know.
They might describe some of those rifles in that police report.
They do. In fact, Colonel Coleman gave the guy about a column and a half write-up in a big deal when he was arrested out there. Now, without doubt, if my wife and I said, "I'll bet you that's where Lee Harvey Oswald ordered the rifles by mail order, Dave Ferrie." I said, "It's the same goddamn rifle. He didn't get it from Dave Ferrie, but somebody's learned how to get them from Dave Ferrie." No thanks. That was my first reaction.
He had the Italian type?
Yeah, he'd be smart to make rifles. Hell, I never paid any attention to what the make and model was. It was a bolt-action rifle, see? Right. Yeah, a whole rack.
Where did he shoot them?
Well, I don't know.
Did he ever explain what he was forming? A vigilante committee? Kind of Roswell out there?
Squadron. Those were the drill rifles for the CAP squadron.
I never heard of a CAP outfit like this.
Well, I can't even. I know they haven't even. So anyway, he had a bunch of chemical lab equipment at his house, man. It was fantastic.
The real thing I want to get to, though, is possible other time you saw
It came over the WWL television. A release came over that David W. Ferrie, that Oswald had formerly known as former airline pilot, he's been in David W. Ferrie's CAP squadron.
That came out from
On television. It was announced on TV. So in a minute that yet, I pick up the phone. I got Bud Reese's Kennedy.
That came out.
I don't know. It was announced on WWL that he had formerly been in Dave Ferrie's CAP squadron. Then it hit, see? The whole thing. And Regis came over and I told him all this. And then 2 Secret Service cats came over and I told them. Now, David Ferrie had 2...
Did the Secret Service people show any more interest in the FBI?
No.
No more?
No. The man asked me, he saw my Louisiana ex-colonel commission hanging up there, and he asked me about the colonel in the Army, and I know all. I said, no, I was a corporal, there's not much difference there. I just laughed, you know. And I said, what difference does that make? I said, I don't know, it's the black war fireman. I said, you're going to judge me by my social standard, that's one.
connections with this Cuban group, for example?
Come see, come saw.
But they didn't write a note, this conversation.
Maybe a notation or two, they take a name out.
But not like I'm doing.
No. Anyway.
In other words, looking back, I take it you have the impression now that they pretty much decided it was audible, they were just close.
Well, they were probably fixed in their opinions. I never questioned the FBI as to their motives. It's not my business to do that.
All right.
But the minute my wife and I saw these, let me steal another match. The minute my wife and I saw those things, we snapped. I couldn't help it. Because everything was the same, you know. Then this nigger mechanic was running around with him, the poor people, when they seen this nigger up there. And now this nigger was with us. Well, he'd way out in the car all the time. I mean, with Ferrie. But he'd be driving Ferrie around, so this nigger had to know us real well. And now I understand.
In other words, that's your point about the Negro.
That's right.
Bodyguard. He had kind of a bodyguard who was with him now constantly and always was, even wherever he went. So he had to know.
Now
Did these federal agents who questioned you show any interest in that possibility?
Not a thing. Didn't face it. Now this nigger, the reason I got mad at Ferrie one time was the fact that the nigger had called my house and got my wife on the phone. And he got plenty with her, he got smart with her. And he said, "Fuck me, why don't we talk that way to my wife, you know?" And so I told Ferrie, "Go bring him around and shoot him."
He's really a bodyguard.
Yeah. But this nigger carries the gun, and Ferrie will say, "Give me a gun." And the nigger hands him a pistol. The nigger carries the felt. And I seen Ferrie, Mrs. Martin, my wife, and my little boy were at Ferrie's house in the Virginia Drive on Christmas Eve night, back in 63, back in there. And he had got a rule on the bonnet when he went after it. And he was swinging, he was doing the derby, she didn't have a drink in it. So help me God. He was worse than Eugene to him. He'd stand in one position and do the derby. He'd turn completely around. He just wouldn't just go up in here like a flying saucer. It's not an easy man. We left. We had some friend of ours come over and pick us up in a car and go home.
What about Oswald? You might have seen him somewhere else. Did you ever see him at his home or any place like that?
If I remember correctly, at the street, it might have been at his house. It might have been at his house.
No, but you did see him some other place one time.
Yeah. I was thinking yesterday that it was at Ferrie's house. It may have been, because there was always a gang of young people in there. But I would go over there and talk to Dave strictly about his case and his
This
business.
is a house on Virginia Drive.
Virginia Drive, yes, sir. No, I've never been in that apartment up there. No. Ferrie, the reason Ferrie got teed off at me was that there was a guy by the name of Alexander Turner, the Right Reverend Alexander Turner. He's an Archiman right under Basher at that time. He was the Metropolitan for the Syrian Orthodox Church in New York. It's a valid, legitimate, part of patriarchal church out of East Steinbolt, you know, and Pilgrims of course. Ferrie made application to him for the Brazilian fathers to enter the Orthodox priesthood. Now, I had known Turner. In fact, Turner sends me his magazines, Orthodoxy, and all the literature. I get it free. I never paid a cent. I've known Turner this well. So, Alex writes me. He says, "Jack, what do you know on this man?" So I go to the Big News, and I get copies of all of the news articles. And I said, whether the man is guilty or ignorant, or innocent, here's the statement on the guy. I said, I can't lie to you. Here's the truth. Make your own decision. Ferrie found out that I had killed his application and was dead right now. Then he tried to get ordained by another Orthodox.
Why did he want to be a priest
I
so
don't
well?
know. In other words, he thought he'd have a sideline and a vocation to get back to, like this. He lost his airline connection.
What does he do for a living?
He gets checks in the mail. His mother used to get checks all the time, and he'd take them away from her and cash it. And one check especially used to come.
He gets checks now? Well, I mean, you haven't seen that. He got checks.
On a Virginia Drive, he used to get the checks, and one of them was a check that looked like came out of a large checkbook for a dectograph. I can never see what company it was on. It was a kind of a pink-looking check.
Do you know if he works now?
He worked for G. Ray Gill.
Yes, but since then.
And he blackmailed you, you know, he got the Carlos Marcello files, and he nice to Carlos Marcello for enough money to put him in a gas station for this out there at Veterans Highway, and,
Who on the gas station business?
there he was a golf distributor, a golf dealer. He was at the corner of Metry Heights and Veterans Highway.
What happened to that?
I don't know, he conned Carlos Marcello out of several $1,000. They kind of goofed off at him. Now, Carlos might have something in this airplane business, I don't know. He might have had to do that to keep the contract off his neck, I don't know. The Gulf station is now owned by Polizzi, Polizzi. That's the Gulf station. The telephone number is 835-9214.
Who's it owned by now?
Polizzi.
Polizzi?
Yeah,
What's his first name?
I don't know. But his telephone number is 835-9214.
835 what?
9214.
9214.
I understand he's not too happy with that.
All right.
I haven't talked to Miss Polizzi, but I got this from the golf people, so. This is what I overhear from the guy that used to deliver gasoline out there from the station.
All right. Can you recall anything about the other circumstances when you saw Oswald in any way?
Well, I know that Oswald had those offices up there that were in Kelly's vehicles. That's around, let's see, Bill's address is 54.
No, but I mean in his connection with Ferrie, like at his home.
Well, Ferrie used to go up there back and forth in that office all the time.
Who you put Oswald's office?
Yeah, hell yes he did. That's it, Ferrie was in a communist, got Oswald in here tight, see? No, that's what I mean.
How did you know he was going to Oswald's office, Jack?
Well, he was upstairs, going up and down the stairs here all the time. After the regular court, they had moved out of the building.
In other words, you bump into him there?
I was coming around from Bannister's all the time, going over to Bill's or in Mancuso's Cafe. I'd see him coming in and out. See his car parked out there in the street. I looked down well where he was.
I see Bouncer's office in the same area, and you said.
That's right, at 531 or Lafayette, right around the corner in the rear of Mancuso's Cafe there. Mancuso's right on the corner, Jack Mancuso's place. Then there was a little shirt shop, then the entrance to the Newman building. And then next door to that was the shirt shop, and next door to that was Bill's bar, see? Incidentally, you know who owns that building there, don't you?
Oh.
Sam Newman downstairs with Louis Hyde. That's the one Bannister's office. Bannister owed Newman about 4 G's when Bannister died.
Did he ever explain why he was with Oswald so much?
No, I never asked him. No, I didn't know nothing about Oswald at the time.
At this time, Ferrie was still an investigator with Gill.
That's right. This is before the time. And then he started to go with Gill. And then Brown Lee went with Ferrie up there too, you know. Well, see, Brown Lee was proud, Gill's fine.
Definitely. Brown, huh?
Yeah, Brown Lee was fine. And all Gill hated Brown Lee with a passion. He hated him.
How about Thor?
Well, Gill's he's got that little stinker that runs with that son of a bitch. There's one causing all the trouble. That's what Gill was.
Morris Brownlee?
Morris Brown.
Tell us about him.
Yeah.
What about him?
Morris Brownlee lives at, he probably got his address.
Jefferson Highway?
Yeah.
What is it?
Talk to water, couldn't be nice. There's no intention whatsoever of damaging you.
You just came at the wrong time.
I was wrong, and said, no, you misunderstand. But I did it all, I said, I'm gonna put it in there just like you said.
Board law has always been very fair. I think Casey just called it the wrong time, don't you?
So, it was, question said, I may even be able to give you a boost on it. You want a little information, I gave him a rap sheet on these guys.
Well, anyway,
I don't know about Brownlee. You have to get his address later. Tell me about Brownlee.
it's 833-6444 is the telephone number, and it's on Jefferson Highway. I remember it's got 3 4s at the end of it. It's an 833 prefix. It's in the telephone book. It's not under Morris Brownlee, but it's under Brownlee. Brownlee, one word.
getting Jack one. Jim, I think I can do some work on this editorial.
By all means, go ahead. You got a copy? Be my guest. Go ahead, tell me more about this Brownlee.
All right.
What's this,
Brownlee to me was always the epitome of fashion at this time. He would come to my house and he, you
I
know,
mean, dressed well?
oh no, the time suits, well tailored, well groomed, always well groomed. Immaculate as a pin. Tie always cinched up nice.
Is he still that way?
No, not that I understand. He's not when he was hanging out in the corn club down there.
Kind of a billhead, isn't he?
Yeah. Now Brownlee,
He hangs around a corn club and a New World and in that area.
yeah, well, I'll tell you, who can tell you all about the narcotics rap. Brownlee was
I
involved.
know about it.
You know, I even know the doctor that set him up. He's not an MP. His license in 1963 with Gerald Edwin Andrew Miller.
Well, I'm always in Brownlee.
Anyway, Dr. Miller and Dr. Moore, you know Jerry Moore, don't you?
No.
The dentist? He knows you, he helped you during the election.
Well, I probably know about him. I'm thinking about that
Dr.
area.
Moore, the dentist out there on Jeff Highway, I would gladly tell you that he knows all about Brownlee.
What's his name?
Moore, M-A-U-T,
Oh, that sounds familiar.
M-A-U-T-E-R-E-R.
It should, what's his first name?
Gerald.
Waterbury.
Gerald Moore. Yeah, hell, he's, Ray Moore downstairs there. That's his cousin.
Did you give us info on Ferrie, on Brownlee rather?
Yeah, he knows about both of them. Dr. Moore has also got a degree in psychology as well as dentistry, and he agrees with me that Ferrie is one of the few cases of, he's one of the few legends we've met that are masochistic, sadistic masochists. They love to persecute themselves. They're wicked people. They build themselves up and then lead themselves to their own destruction.
Well, tell me more about Brownlee. He has some connection